that is here. So you know already that we are going to record our session here.
Did we lose Jim?
We did.
Okay. All right, I'll quickly go through this. Jim, you're back?
What did you do?
I didn't do anything. All right, I'll quickly go through.
I would say the governor pressed the wrong button.
Could be. Just a few common Zoom etiquettes. We've gone through this as part of every session, just to make you aware that the meeting is recorded. We want to make this more a lively conversation. So as much as possible, please keep your cameras on. Obviously, if you have to step away and take care of a few things, please switch off the video then. For the questions, please use the chat function in the Zoom. And based on whose session it is, they might respond then and there, or they might take the questions later on. Obviously, a request, please don't join the Zoom call when you're driving. Please make sure you are in a safe place when you're attending this session. So with that said, move on to the next slide. Rudy, do you want to go through the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as I can find it on my desktop. All right. So today I'm playing past District Governor Jim Bynum, and our guest speaker today is going to be talking to us about public image. And when we finish with that, we're going to have a fellowship activity where we go into breakout rooms. And then Raghavan will be talking to us about Rotary Club Central. Camille will come in after the break and go over the process for using PMail. And then past District Governor Chuck Arnason will finish up with leadership activities, some practical tips for running your club meetings. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A with me after that. And hopefully we'll find past District Governor Bynum before his time is up to come and do this thing. So it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Ashley Waters. Ashley is a proud member of the Rotary Club of Carroll Creek, a 190-member club in Frederick, Maryland. She's been a Rotarian since 2015 and has enthusiastically jumped into the Rotary community. In her club, she recently chaired their major fundraiser for the past 4 years, Frederick's Oktoberfest, which has raised nearly $400,000 during that time. She currently serves as club president and also serves as the public image chair for Rotary District 7620 and the assistant public image coordinator for Zone 33. She is a Paul Harris Fellow, a member of the Paul Harris Society, and a benefactor to the foundation. In her day job, Ashley is the executive director of Woman to Woman Mentoring, a nonprofit that offers mentoring services to women in her community. She previously served as a communications manager for the city of Frederick. She holds a bachelor's degree in international politics from Penn State, a master's degree in nonprofit management from Towson, and a doctoral degree in public administration from the University of Baltimore. Ashley lives with her husband, Andrew, and their son in downtown Frederick. So without further ado, Ashley, I'll turn it over to you so you can educate us in this thing called public image.
All right, hopefully you'll be seeing everything here. Beautiful. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Awesome. So I am excited to be with you guys. I just love coming to your district, whether that's in person or virtually. So it's good to see so many friendly faces and some new faces today. And my job today is to give you some tips on what you really should know about public image coming into your president year. And so I used to do this training prior to being president. So now I feel like I really can do it now that I'm actually president and I'm seeing public image from a completely different side now that I'm trying to make sure our club is conveying our story and our message to our community. So we're going to dive right in today with conversations about really what is public image and how that relates to telling your Rotary story, your club's Rotary story. we're going to talk about your club's public image or public relations committee and how we can best set that up to hopefully give you an easier year in terms of public image. And then I can never get away from these conversations without talking about the necessary evil of branding and social media. It is a crucial part of public image, but it's not the only thing. But typically I get lots of questions about it, so we'll cover that at the end. So my question for you, and if it's easier to do the chat or if you guys are allowed to unmute, we can do that too. But what do you think public image is when it comes to Rotary? Public image, to be honest, is not a word that is used in a lot of corporations or organizations. You're more likely going to see marketing or public relations. But I think Rotary really calls it public image intentionally. So to you, what does public image mean right now as your president-elect? If it's easier, what we can do is, well, I don't know, have you guys ever used the annotate tool in Zoom? I'm gonna give you guys a quick lesson. So I have this blank slide here. If you go to your little module, you'll see this thing called annotate, and you actually can select text and you could say, well, I think public image is marketing. So you're looking for annotate and then you select text and you can type in your answer on the screen and we should see it in theory.
It'll be on the drop-down bar on the video, the shared screen module, folks. So,
yep, so just annotate, and you also can do as a stamp if you're like, yep, that's what I think, you can heart it or check box it, right? So I'll give you guys a minute. Like I said, if it's easier to put it in the chat, let me know what you think public image is right now. Okay, I see Steven's name popping up, so I think he's starting to get the hang of it. What others think about Rotary?
You've got one in the chat box as well, Ashley.
Okay. Oh, no, oh, there it is. What the local public sees us doing. Anyone else have any thoughts? Telling your story, our message to the world. Awesome. So, oh, I gotta get out of my thing here. I'm just gonna keep hearting things if I don't. So, oh man, I should have hang on. Let me clear this. I always forget to do that way you guys don't see it. Clear all my drawings. There we go. Okay, so the thing is that public image is actually a lot of things. It's the actions of our members, right? If people know we're Rotarians, they expect us to live service above self. They expect us to act a certain way. So just us being Rotarians out in the world, that's us projecting a public image of Rotary and what it is. Involvement in our community, this is what we are doing in our community. So are we cleaning up creek beds? Are we helping a local school? What are we doing that is happening in our community? And then lastly, of course, it's all that presence on marketing platforms, which is what most people think about when they think of public image. So again, just remember that public image, when we talk about this, it is a lot of things. So while we may focus a little bit more on how to get that public image out and how to improve it or establish it, there are other things that are constantly happening that build the public image of your Rotary Club and Rotary as a whole every single day. Okay, so let's dive into this a little bit more. So the big thing that I always talk about, and I'm not going to dive into huge detail today, is how we share Rotary with others, how we talk about Rotary and what we can do to really jumpstart a public image or renew a public image of a Rotary Club. And so we made this cute little graphic here at zone 33 to help give you just a handful of things, okay? So first is to recognize the opportunity. There's always an opportunity to build the public image of Rotary. Again, that could be through your story, that could be through your club story. What are you guys doing? What impact are you making? Why is Rotary important? Recognize that opportunity and figure out how to weave it in. There is almost always an opportunity in various platforms or locations and meetups to bring in Rotary. Okay, we also recommend that you avoid the jargon. We talk a lot in acronyms and little things that most people outside of Rotary will not understand. And so when you say, well, our DG this, or people call me an RPIC for the Assistant Rotary Public Image Coordinator position. No one knows what that means. No one wants the fancy stuff. They want to know about the impact. They want to know about why they should know what Rotary is doing, whether that's to become a member or to be a good community partner for us. The middle two really talk about finding the passion and connection. And so this is important for everyone to really take a good look inside and figure out, why are you passionate about Rotary? Because when you're passionate about Rotary and you're able to share your story about Rotary, then your members get excited about Rotary. They're going to think about their Rotary story. Okay, and this is just like having all of this stuff kind of in our heads and in our hearts makes it way easier to build the public image of Rotary. We like to keep it real and keep it local. Talk about the things that you're doing. This is nothing against anyone on the club, anyone on this call who is super passionate about polio, but a lot of people, that when they want to talk about Rotary, they immediately go to polio. And prior to polio coming back to the United States, polio was really something that most people didn't pay attention to. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying they shouldn't pay attention to it. But in fact, it's one of those things where if that's the first thing you lead with, you're going to lose people. It just naturally isn't going to gravitate towards them. But once they're in and once they're interested just a little bit, then you can talk about all the cool things that are happening. So we find the best way to really establish a good public image is to keep it real and keep it local to start, and then expand out to our international work. It just tends to relate more to the communities. And then lastly, like I said, always make sure you're sharing your story and following up if you have access to a news outlet, or you were in front of a group of people, or a friend just said, hey, I'd like to learn more. Okay, so when you're thinking about sharing Rotary with others, these are just a few tips that we can kind of keep internal as we're thinking about some of the platforms we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about your club's public relations committee, okay? And so the biggest thing about your public relations committee is creating a plan and creating a team, all right? So we know that there's all of these things, right? It's the way that we act, it's what we do, and it's the tools that we use that can really build a really grand public image. But you can't do that alone. So number one, I always say, public relations and public image for Rotary is not a one-person job. It's not a president's job solely. It's not your public relations chair's job solely. In fact, I like to say that every person of your club is a part of your public image team. Why? Because again, their actions and their passion and them telling their story can help you build your public image. Most people don't like that. They want to have a nice little committee. So I certainly recommend that, one, you really work on finding your public image chair. If you're not talking about that now, I would certainly recommend you do so. This is one of the positions that most clubs do not fill. I will tell you, as the district public image chair for 7620, I have probably about a third of our clubs in our district with an identified public image chair. Otherwise, they have their secretary or someone else acting in that capacity in addition to another role. And so with that, I really encourage you to find someone who is passionate about it. Again, passionate about it. They don't have to understand every tool. They don't have to be a certain age. I see a lot of people really gravitating towards the younger folks to be their public image chairs. That's perfectly fine. But I will tell you, in my club, one of my biggest public image people in my club is 82 years old. He does a phenomenal job of using social media. He does a phenomenal job of telling Rotary's story, of making sure we get in front of the paper, making sure we do all these things. So when you're thinking about your public image chair, think about what your club needs. What does your club need to be successful and to tell your story better? And then build a group of people, preferably 2 or 3 if you can. I think it's great to have 3 to 4 people working on this. That way they can split their duties. Okay, that could be someone running social media. That one could be someone running kind of like your news and that type of interaction. It could be your website, making sure your website is up to date. That sometimes takes a different skill set, if you will. So again, it's not a one-person job. You need to look at what you're using and what you want to use in terms of tools and build your team around that. think comprehensively to make sure you have at least one, preferably 2 or 3 more people to do that. Okay. And when you're building a team, like I said, don't just look for someone to do social media. Print is not dead everywhere. You need to know your community. Can you use radio? Can you use the newspaper? Can you be out at community fairs? You know, what can you do? Do you need someone just to create collateral and things for you while you're cleaning up something along the road? Do you want to have t-shirts? Do you want to have a sign? Think about who can help you with the graphic design portion as well, because that's something that also will just draw attention to what we're doing. Okay, so when you're creating a plan and creating a team, really think about what does that look like for you and how planful do you want to be? Okay, so the one thing I will at the very, very end, I'll give you a website for the Zone 33 public image team. And we actually have a content calendar that we have built that gives a really great framework of basic things you can do. It talks about the themes of the month. It talks about Rotary's birthday and like certain things that you don't want to miss. It also gives you tips on what you should be sharing that month, whether that's highlighting a Rotarian, highlighting a project, whatever it may be. So when you're thinking about a plan, know that we have built out a few resources for you and hopes to make that a little bit easier. But again, biggest thing, find that person now, have those conversations now, okay? Because that way they can actually hop onto some of our trainings that we're doing pre their time as PR chair to really help with that. And then they can build their committee around them. And know what you want from your PI team. What are you looking for? Are you looking for social media? Are you looking for other digital enhancements? Do you know that print and radio and some of the more passive ideas work in your community? Figure that out with your PI chair, because then they have a plan to move forward and make sure they're always getting the information in advance for what's coming up in your year. So if you're working on a calendar as a president of kind of like the major events for the year, getting that to your PI chair early will help them as well. So that's about creating a plan and creating a team. But like I said, every Rotarian should be helping with public image. And so I would really encourage you when you do your talks at your club about your goals is to really encourage everyone to become part of your public image team. That means snapping pictures at your service projects, fellowship events, and meetings. I will tell you that like my club used to have a dedicated photographer, and that worked okay for a while, but our photographer or our president, you can't be at everything every time. And so by telling everyone, hey, snap pictures and send them to this person, or snap pictures and post them to our Facebook internal group, or upload them to Dropbox, whatever you want them to do, having everyone with our little tools in our pockets, right? Everyone can take pictures. Yes, some pictures will be better than others, but having everyone kind of catalog that gives you the opportunity to then showcase that externally. Okay, so always have someone that's going to snap pictures at your events, and it doesn't always have to be the same person. Tell everyone to do it and you'll get the best pictures out of it. Number 2 is to share and respond to club activities. This is extremely helpful on social media. If you have members that are engaged in social media, is to make sure they know that by sharing and responding, so that's liking, loving, caring, I mean, hopefully not the angry face, but all those faces you can make on social media, make sure they're doing that, because you could be spending a lot of time on club activities on social media. And if no one is sharing it or liking it, it's not going to work. This is a really, really easy ask. As an example for this, I was mentioning earlier in the call, my major fundraiser is coming up this weekend. And, you know, we really want to get it out there, and we're spending a little bit of money boosting it on social media and whatnot, but we told our club, hey everyone, we are still in need of volunteers. We need you to share this post. We already have a post up there for you. Go there and share it. And I'll tell you, on my social media, I've seen 30 of my club members share it, which means it's out into 30 other sub communities in our larger community, and hopefully addressing the need of volunteers. So if you have something coming up, if you have a fireside chat coming up, if you have a service project coming up that you're inviting the public to, if you're having a fellowship event that's open to people or a fundraiser, tell people to share that in their communities and give them the tools to do it. So either send them an email that they can forward to people, give them a social media post that they can share out, but that's the best way to engage Rotarians in your public image efforts. If they are able to, I always recommend celebrating the small wins online, and that can be extremely personal. So if they brought in a speaker, have them post a picture with that person and tell why they were excited to bring them to Rotary. If they took their child to a Rotarian project, I always post. My son gets the best social media likes from my family, and so anytime I take my son to something for Rotary, he loves service. I love having him there. And I always post a picture. People always love that. And it tells the story about how Rotary truly is family friendly. So those small wins, whether it's a successful event or a fun engagement opportunity, tell them to share it. Tell them to share their Rotary story online. It really, really will help. Second to last, just embrace the district and zone opportunities. Rudy and I know some of you other folks are always on our Zone 33 calls. We're making mini videos right now about how to make public image easier that we're sharing out, and that's accessible to everybody. So I really encourage you to tell your Rotarians to get engaged with these efforts, because that's how you catch the Rotary bug. I really think that when you get to meet people outside of your club that are really passionate about what you're doing, it can really help as well. And then lastly, wearing a pin or something Rotary on it. You guys can't see my shirt, but this is my proud shirt that I wear all the time. It says, "Ask me about Rotary." I wear this thing all over the place. It's super fun. And people really do ask. And so again, it's little things like your pin, it's big obnoxious things like this t-shirt, anything you can do and your Rotarians can do to just get Rotary out there is extremely important. And all of these are pretty low asks, right? There's nothing on this list that it's really overwhelming. So if they're on social media, there's some tips. People are always taking pictures on your cell phone, so it's not a big ask to do that. And then just taking advantage of the opportunities to learn more. I think it's really, really important. All right, so let's keep going here because I want to make sure we have time for some questions at the end too, because I find that to be most helpful. So like I mentioned at the beginning, branding and social media is a lot of what people think public image is. And so we've already talked to date about how it's not just that, how it's important to make sure we're living out Rotary's values, right? Like we're just being good humans, dedicated to service above self, how we need to share our projects. But the reality is there are some things that make it better, more effective. I certainly geek out on how our brains react to things as someone who tries to get people to soak up my messages all the time as a communicator. There are some tips. One of those is branding. The other one is just the reality of social media. So the biggest things you can think about if you're not a big social media person or it's just really kind of intimidating is that social media and digital marketing is work. I'm not going to say that it's not. It is work, and it has to be social, which means you just can't be pushing things out. You've got to be able to pull and respond to people as well. Okay, so in the social media world, it's important to have someone who's managing and engaging with others. We have a club here in Frederick. We actually have 7 Rotary clubs in my county, and one of them just went through a major blow up and split. And so one of them right now, I'll be very honest, doesn't have a great public image in the community. There were some things that happened. And so right now, one of the things they're doing is engaging with other Rotary clubs and other community organizations on social media, trying to rebuild some of their public image about being a good community partner. And so again, social media is very effective, but it requires true engagement. So how do you make that happen and really sustain it? Which is always a big question. So I have 5 simple tips for you. And if you're a social media wizard, these are probably going to be super intuitive. But if you're new to it, I'm hoping this will kind of ease some of your concerns in hopes that it will allow you to jumpstart your club social media if that's something you're not currently doing. So first is to know your targets and choose your channels. Okay, so most people are really get intimidated when they're like, oh, I have to do Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. And what about TikTok? And what about Snapchat? And I'm just like, whoa, like time out. You do not have to be on all those channels. In fact, that's impossible. It's not impossible for most organizations, especially volunteer organizations, to manage that level of channel interaction on social media. So I always say, just based on the demographics of the channels, there are 2 that people should mostly be paying attention to. And that would be Facebook and Instagram. The good thing is that they connect in the back end through the Meta Business Suite, right? So the good thing is because Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same people, they've now streamlined things where you can actually go in and schedule and post to both platforms at the same time. So it's actually operational. It's almost about one platform, but it masquerades as 2. Now, obviously, there's some differences, links and pictures and the way you use them, but fundamentally, that's the best way to attract people, I would say ages 25 to 60, right? Your older age group is going to be on Facebook, your middle age group is going to be on both, and the younger folks are going to mainly be on Instagram. With this, again, it's really simple. Use those tips at the beginning. Write a short story about what the picture you're showing is, right? Demonstrate that value of membership. Why should people want to be members of your organization? Show your members having fun. Show the impact that they're able to make when we collectively come together, okay? So you're going to choose your channels wisely. Hopefully my recommendations of Facebook and Instagram help. I always get the question about Twitter. We are not active enough for Twitter in most cases, so I don't think Twitter is necessary for Rotary clubs, but I could be, you know, other people think differently. That's just my personal opinion. Demonstrate that value of membership. Okay, like I said, really engage. Connect your events to your channels. People aren't using the events, or they have their events with a completely separate page. Make sure you make that link for people. If you're hosting a major fundraiser that's really well known in your community, and that's what a lot of Rotary clubs have, they have these staple fundraisers. Make sure people know that's a Rotary event. How is it connected to your Rotary channels? How are you engaging with each other to make sure people know? It's a really great way to get people into like listening about Rotary. Then you can win them over with the service aspect. Like I mentioned, always show the impact and always personalize the impact. All right. So you want to really think about why this is valuable. Why are you doing this? You can talk about how it relates to Rotary's big vision, but really talk about your community. Are you responding to a need in your community? Right? Showcase that. If you're working with another organization, tag them, right? So you really want to make sure you're making those connections and showing the impact. And then lastly, like I mentioned before, involve your current Rotarians. You can do this as a club and as a district, but everyone should also be doing this personally. So encourage your current Rotarians to engage with the post, but also make posts of their own with their own pictures and telling their own story. All right. So the biggest thing is know your targets. Don't go trying to be on 5 different channels. Make sure you're demonstrating the value of membership and letting people know how they can be members, right? You want to make sure your events are always connected and that you're always showing the impact. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. If you can get people in your club to do maybe like 1 post a month about Rotary, that's 1 more than you have now. Okay, so make that kind of a call to action. I think it's pretty manageable for people. And some people just really don't think about doing that for Rotary. So making that ask is really, really helpful. Okay, last but not least, I want to talk about the Brand Center. So raise your hand or give me a thumbs up if you have ever been to Rotary's Brand Center. Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up, some hands up. All right. If you haven't, the good news is that you weren't really missing much, because the old Brand Center was extremely complicated to get into. It was extremely frustrating to find what you needed, but Rotary has improved it. They heard all of our whines and frustrations, and they actually updated it recently. So this is a screenshot of the new Brand Center. And what I'm going to do now is, if you give me a second, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to switch over to the actual Brand Center, because I really want everybody to see what it's like now and show you all the things that you don't have to do yourself that Rotary actually allows you to do. So now I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Okay. So when you go to the Brand Center now, and you're like, Ashley, why would I go to the Brand Center? This is where you find logos. This is where you find pictures. This is where you find templates. You can find videos. You can find pretty much everything you will need to at least get started. Okay. And so what you do is you go down here to what would you like to do today, and you pick something. Okay. So let's say I want to learn how, let's find some club and member resources. So it's going to bring you here. All right. And so you're going to see, we're going to click club and member resources here. And we're going to dive in here. And you can see there's just a bunch of different stuff that you may need. Are you looking for virtual backgrounds? Here you go. Are you looking for a Rotary PowerPoint template? Here you go. You want a news release template? Here you go. Letter to the editor template. You want a big roll-up banner, you know, those great banners you can kind of roll up and put at places. There's some options in here. Again, there's a prospective member flyer. All of these things can be customized, but you also can just download them and use them because they're all Rotary compliant. Okay, if you wanted to change your virtual background based on the month of our areas of focus, you could do that too. Okay, so there's all this stuff that's already in here, a wallet card, basically a business card about Rotary, a membership certificate, a membership card. Like there are so many things in here that you can use and just edit, okay? Those were all the downloads you can do, but this is all of the templates that are available as well for editing. So I hope you guys know you can make your own people of action templates in here. In fact, I'll be releasing a video later today of how to do that. So stay tuned for that. If you want a president business card, you can make it right in here. You just open it up and you edit it. This stuff is extremely easy to use now. They also, if you don't have an approved logo, I would highly recommend going back in and making sure your logo is approved with the new brand standards, and you can do that all through the Brand Center. I'm going to go back and just click on a few more things here just so you can see what else is in here. The people of action materials, this is really helpful. These are all of the images and videos you can find in Brand Center as well. So if you're looking for something and you just don't have a picture quite yet that you like, use one of the stock photos until you're able to get a picture of your own. You can go in here and download these, and these are all allowed to be used, including these videos that talk about Rotary's impact. And they have 30 seconds, they have 60 seconds, they have a bunch of different versions of this stuff. So I really encourage you, especially if someone's asking for something, if you don't have the materials locally yet, right? You haven't been able to get good pictures, or you don't have the capacity to make a video, there are things in here that can help you until you're able to do some of those things with a more local and club impact. Okay, so I really encourage you. There are some really great photos of people of action in here. And to be honest, they're vague enough that they could be almost in any community. And that's why they did them. They did it for that use until people can get their own people of action photos up and running. So again, I really encourage you to use this Brand Center. It's been greatly improved. It used to be very, very clunky. It is not nearly as clunky anymore. And I find it to be a great resource. So with that, give me one more second here. I'm going to pull up my last piece. Maybe it's not working for me. There we go. So as I close here and open it up for questions and what you guys are experiencing as you're coming into your president year, just remember that public image is a lot of things. Embrace that. It actually makes it a lot easier. Remember that all clubs are the unofficial parts of your PI team. So try to mobilize them and get them excited about telling their Rotary story. It really will help. And like I said, just try your best to stay on brand. If you ever have questions about, Ashley, is this the right logo? Or am I allowed to do this? I geek out on that. I love that kind of stuff, and most people don't. So I'm happy if you're going to be putting up a sign in your community, or if you have an ad that you need, I'm happy to take a glance at it at any time and give you some tips to make sure it stays on brand. And so with that, here's my information. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to see how I share my Rotary story periodically on social media. So I try to live what I preach here. And then you can see my email and that website here at the very, very bottom. That is the Zone 33 Public Image Team's website. We try to add a bunch of resources on there for club and district public image chairs. So please jot that website down. I will also put it in the chat for you, and hop on there and just know we continue to add things as people request them. So with that, I think I have a few minutes for questions, and I'm happy to take those, and I'll stop sharing my screen so I can see your lovely faces.
Okay, Ashley, can you see my screen?
I see me now, very large me.
I see you too. So I put my branding out front while I'm sitting in the Zoom room, and people are stopping by and saying, "Where's the Rotary meeting?"
I love that.
Rudy, you're welcome to come on by.
Yeah, except I'm not anywhere near you right now.
It's part of our. It's part of what will be the Rotary float that we're going to use for the grand illumination on the November 19th downtown Norfolk. So we'll have
Nice.
300,000 people seeing our Rotary float,
I love that.
and we're going to hand out cards with candy canes that'll talk about what is Rotary. And you're all welcome.
Yeah, make sure you guys get that in the newsletter, Jeff.
Yeah, we just got accepted because you have to apply to get into the Grand Illumination Parade. And we just got accepted yesterday. So we'll make a notice and draw pictures of what the parade will look like. And everyone has to wear elf ears and Rotary pins, and it'll be fun.
Nice. And John, I'm sure John is going to wear some elf pants, right?
Actually, that was a fantastic presentation. There's one thing that you mentioned in terms of, and we're really talking about it right now. That's the use of pictures in newsletters. Would you just mention that again? The types of pictures that should be used in newsletters and what have you? Because I'm thinking of some of the pictures that I see online and those that are being used in newsletters, and they're definitely not people of action.
Yes, and so I will say that we're really used to saying, hey, here's a check, or hey, here's a speaker at a podium, or hey, before everyone leaves this service project, let's run over here and get a group picture really quickly. And that if that's the only picture you can get, okay, but I'm going to challenge everybody to think differently. And that's why having everybody kind of be in charge of photos at the event, you may be right next to someone and have a great shot of them actually serving, where the president or even like having one photographer at every event can be a little hard. So you want to show us actually doing stuff, right? We don't want to be known as a check writing organization. We're not a foundation. Like, that's not what Rotary is. We are people of action. We are serving our community. So try your best to find ways to get people doing that. That may mean in some cases you stage it. I'll be honest. I've had people do that before just because it's really hard to get a good picture. If you need a really good picture in a high resolution to just like take it really quickly. But if you guys don't mind, if I have a minute, Jim, I can pull up my club's Facebook page. And I'm going to show you, like, I've actually been running our Facebook page because my public image chair is out on maternity leave. So other duties as assigned as president means that I was more than happy to step up. And I'm going to show you just how when we don't have great pictures, somehow you can weave the story to be a little bit different. So this is my Rotary Club. And you'll see up here, like, we made this little photo collage and it's all people of action. It's our school supply drive. It's our bike collection. This is us planting trees. And this is our reverse Santa Day that we do every year. But when you come down here, this is about our fundraiser, our Oktoberfest, and all of our potato salad. But you'll see here, like, this was our speaker. And immediately following our speaker, everyone like flocked to her. And there was this big long line of people waiting to talk with her. And again, not a great picture, not exactly what we would have wanted, but it helped us because we were able to say, this is what we love about our presenters and meeting topics. We aim to bring in speakers who get us involved and get us thinking. Today's speaker, Michelle Schur, talked about Frederick High School's Links program. And immediately following our meeting, she had a long line of Rotarians wanting to collaborate professionally and personally. So again, in our community, the Links program is well known. People will get this and like they're basically exchanging contact information. So not an ideal photo, right? Not great, but see how we kind of weaved in what we were trying to do and tried to show the impact of our meetings. If you scroll down, this is one where we actually, we partnered with an elementary school and we were teaching our kids how to compost. Well, I can't show pictures of kids' faces, right? So it's not like I can show us actually working with the kids. So again, we have the rotary wheel on the compost bins. Yeah, you get to see the food that's being thrown away. I will now pack my son half the lunch after seeing the amount of food that kids throw away. I will tell you that. But again, it just gave a little bit, instead of us just standing there, a little bit of the reality. Okay. And then I'm going to show you one more thing that we did because this was super cool and super fun. We actually we did a volunteer takeover at one of our big community events, and we were given a booth. And so instead of tabling and just putting things out on the table and trying to expect people to come to us, we actually rented a photo booth for $250. It was super affordable. And you can see here that this is what the photo looked like. And it had our logo up top, it had service above self, and it was just like goofy, fun things. So again, this isn't absurd. So even if you can't get people acting in service, there are ways to make your club feel welcoming and accessible and just more modern, right? In very simple ways. So I encourage you, like I said, we don't always get the best pictures. Again, this is one me posing with our new superintendent of schools. But as you can see, like, we don't always have the best photos, but we do try to relate it back to our impact. And so I think that's just important. I know not everyone is going to have the greatest people of action photos. That's why they have them online. Use them, but use your people and just be innovative with how you're relating it back to what's happening at your club or happening in your community. So hopefully that's helpful.
It is. Just one last question from me. You talked also about connecting with other clubs to help your program also, because that's one of the things that we cover here is these guys get to know each other so that they're able to help each other out. But you mentioned it from a PR, from public image vantage point. Would you just comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think partnerships are extremely important, whether that's with another organization or with another Rotary Club. So the gentleman, Mr. Willis, who was here talking about like being out in the community. So one thing we do here in Frederick, because there's 7 of us, is we actually have a business card that has all 7 clubs on the back and when they meet, and it's about Rotary in Frederick County. Because I'm of the mindset that the more Rotarians, the better. If they're in my club, great. If they're in the neighboring club, great, right? And so I think also the bigger and smaller clubs can find ways to support one another. Every club has its challenges. And so that's why partnering is really effective. It can be partnering on a service project, like coming together. We've pulled all 4 city clubs before to plant trees in a local park. Because again, we could have 30 from this club and 20 from that club, or we do it all together and we have 75 people there working together and making a larger impact in a shorter period of time. So if you have a good service project and you know more people would mean more impact, think about how you guys can connect, because again, that partnership and people seeing clubs working together or you working with another nonprofit in your community is only going to improve your public image, right? It's going to show that we are living our values. So I really encourage you to think about how that looks externally, but also create tools like a business card as an option to really make sure that we are just gaining more Rotarians in our area in general. My club meets at 7:30 on Wednesday mornings. A lot of people can't do that, but I'll take them to the Thursday lunch club. I'll take them to the Monday evening club, and that may work better for them because more Rotarians equals more impact in our community. So I really encourage you to think about your club public image, but also your community public image of Rotary as well.
Okay. Someone else has a question. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Regarding photos that you post, for anyone who's not a Rotarian, is there a problem with posting people's pictures, photos online? Do you need permission from them to post their photos?
So I think it depends on where you're taking them. If you're taking it at a big, large event, where basically they're in the public eye and they're kind of accepting that, you don't need their permission. But I would say that if it's not necessarily a public event, I would encourage you to just ask their permission. If you get a really great photo, you could have a formal photo release if you really wanted to, but really just getting their permission. If you took something in more of a private setting, I would encourage you to do so. All of our Rotarians know that like if they're at one of our events, they may end up on our social media. That's just kind of something we put out there to everybody. And the same thing with events. If you're ever going to do an event where you ticket something, just put a photo release right in it. And then it does kind of from a legal standpoint, it covers your butt. So I would recommend doing that when you have the opportunity. But if they're at a public event at a public place and you take a picture, you do not need their permission legally, actually.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, but I should say always be careful of kids. I never put pictures of kids without the parents' permission online. So like when we do stuff at Frederick's Oktoberfest, we have a kids zone. And if I see something super cute, I'll say, hey, like I just snapped this picture. This is what it looks like. Do you mind if I use it on social media to show how kids are having fun at the event? Sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no. And I just respect that. So kids, always make sure you have permission if you have kids at any of your events.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Good. Next question. Any other questions? Yeah, we definitely want you to ask questions because we have a great expert here and she doesn't mind answering. So, anybody
Can
else?
I ask how many of you already have, like, how many of you have public image chairs currently in your club?
All right.
A few.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't want to say this negatively against membership or foundation because we're all really critical, but people really focus on membership and foundation chairs, and like public image is kind of like a last thought. And sometimes it can actually be harder to get someone in that role because it seems really intimidating. So I really encourage you to start that conversation now, because don't let it fall off the radar. I think public image is the most important, because if you have good public image, you won't have to work for members. They'll want to come because your public image is so strong. And when you have a good membership, then your foundation giving increases, right? And so public image is so crucial, and it's part of the cycle.
I can tell you one of the statements I just heard recently. The president says, "I'm becoming president of an old club. The average member is 85 years old." And they told me there's no one, they aren't connected with this social media nonsense. So what do I do if I'm, or is it worth it for me to get a public image chair? And if so, what would that person do in order to engage our members?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes back to the very beginning of our conversation. Like, what is public image? It is not just what we talked about. It is not just social media, right? It is a lot of things. So one, from a tool standpoint, if you're not using social media, then what else works in your community? Does the small newspaper, local newspaper still work for you? Does radio still work for you in your community? Does flyering still work in your community? Like, what can you do to get out there? If you're not going to tell your story and you're currently a club of 85 plus, your club will die out. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's going to happen. If you're not going to tell your story and get people to join you, you're just basically a little microcosm that's going to continue to age and continue to move, and that's going to happen. And so I think it's important to, if you're going to be a Rotary club, you at least need to find a way to share your story in the aspect that works for your town of your club. Totally get social media may not be it. I would challenge the assumption that no one over a certain age can use social media. I'm telling you, my grandma and her friends and people in our club that are definitely over the age of 75, kill it on social media. You can always teach old dogs new tricks, but it's, are they willing? And are they willing to make the time to share Rotary stories? So there's always different avenues you can use. Social media is not the only one, but social media is becoming more of a necessary evil where you just need to have some presence. And so eventually that's going to become a necessity if a club wants to survive at all.
Okay, great. Ashley, thank you so very, very much. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you one other thing. Ashley left her email address and the like. She's a very gracious lady, and she is serious about, if you contact her, she will answer. So you can you have somebody now that you can connect with. Thanks again, Ashley. And now we're going to go to our next phase. Ragavan is now going to break us into two groups. And this is what we're going to do. We want to find out a little bit more about each other. So in order to find out a little bit more about each other, we're going to kind of get you a little off of your beaten path. So this is what we would like for you to do. After you get into your group, select a group leader or a recorder. And then we would like for you to go around and think about, if you were a wrestler, you're now part of the wrestling corporation, you are a wrestler. What would your theme song be? What would your theme song be? What would your theme song be? And then what would your wrestling name be? So share that with everybody, go around the group, tell everybody what those two things would be, okay? Then, after you finish that, then what we would like for you to do, we would like for the group to decide on what colors you would wear in your costume. Any question? Any question? All righty, Ragavan.
All right, I'm going to open the breakout rooms just in case you run into any issues. I'm here to support you, so please stay back and I'll help you out. All right. Jim, how much minutes, Jim?
We're going to give them 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Catherine, tell us who's in your group and who's going to take charge. You're muted.
Which group?
Catherine.
All right. So in group one, there was Jeff, Chuck, Alan, and I. And I opened my mouth first, so I got elected speaker. So obviously in the 2 minutes between when this was given to us to do and we got put in our rooms. My group members actually had like some thoughts go through their heads. So Jeff decided that his theme music would be Rocky, and he would go with a Spider-Man wrestling name, and he thought blue and gold were good colors, even though it doesn't go with Spider-Man. And so we were good with that. And Chuck likes the theme music, We Are the Champions. And he would go by Nature Boy. So green and brown was a good combination for Nature Boy. Alan, down there in his farm in Buckingham, thought that Enter the Sandman would be a great theme music. And he would go by The Great Gordini, and using his favorite school colors, orange and blue. And I was a little stumped by this, not being much of a wrestling fan, but the song We Get Knocked Down, But We Get Up Again. It's a good fight song. And that evoked images of bouncing around to me. So I thought Pinball Queen would be a good name. And purple and orange are wonderfully garish colors. They go together, but they also symbolize volunteerism and community spirit. So
Good.
there you go. That was
Thank
group
you.
one.
Thank you. Vern, who's in your group and who's in charge? You're
Mark
muted.
was in charge.
Okay, Mark?
I thought I was just described, but you know what happens when you describe, you get to read it. Yes, here we go. Vern, we picked MC Hammer and the song to go along with it, Can't Touch This.
Oh.
And yeah, it's pretty good. And Chuck picked Chuck the Viking and Mac Davis song, Lord, It's Hard to Be Humble. And I picked Born to Run, and with the name, of course, The Boss for Bruce Springsteen. Shauna, she picked her song with Roar and by Kenny Perry. And I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the rest of it about the When You Get Mad part, Shauna.
Tiny Tornado.
Tiny Tornado, that's right.
It was awesome.
Tiny Tornado. Yeah. And then Stephen, no way, shape, your stomach is in. It came from an Alka-Seltzer commercial, and I didn't get his wrestling name.
Oh boy.
The stomach.
The
Yeah,
stomach.
the stomach.
Okay.
Oh, mercy.
We didn't get around to the colors part. We ran out of time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for engaging in our little activity. Some of you are all going to, at times, find these a little challenging because it takes you out of your comfort zone. And we're going to do these, and we're going to continue to do these deliberately, because as presidents, you need to come out of your comfort zones. You're getting ready to be the leader of a club. And not only are you able to show that you can give directions, but you also have to take them and get out of your comfort zones. Thank you very much, and I really do appreciate it. And we're going to make a little change in our agenda. So rather than Raghavan, we're now going to have Camille. But yes, that is right?
Yep. Hello.
Camille?
Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Here we go. I'll do this one. All right, so here's our agenda. I gave homework last time, and that homework involved a few things. It involved going over to my club tab overview and getting comfortable with that, changing the configuration. And the next part of the homework was to go searching for members. And then the last part was checking to see if you could update any club information. So my question to you is, one, how many, or if you already are comfortable with this, did you learn anything new? Or did anyone have any trouble as they went through doing these few things? And if you could either shout it out or drop it in the chat if you had any trouble with that.
I was okay with it, John White.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good. These are the very first things and probably the most common things you would do as the president. Would go in and double check your club information is correct, double check that your location is correct, because when we start putting those district governor meetings into the DacDB calendar, then you will want to make sure that Rudy does not show up to the wrong place when it's his day and time to come to your club meeting. So you want to make sure all of that stuff is correct. But other people, why else would it be important to make sure your club information and your meeting location and time is correct on DacDB? Why
Well,
else?
you want people to be able to get to your club meeting if that's where they want to go at the right day.
Right. And Catherine, what if somebody's trying to make up and they've connected and said, I'd like to come make up, but they're looking at DacDB for your club meeting information, but that may have gotten missed. So it's pretty important to have that correct. So the next part I'm sharing with you right now is I'm just going to touch on some of the resources. I touched on this last time. So the first resource that I'm going to show you is that I'm already on DacDB, which is District and Club Database. That's what that stands for. And then I also have another tab open. This is the My Rotary tab. And while I'm not going to talk much about My Rotary, there's one little thing. Oh, it's unavailable because it's under some maintenance right now. So I'll cover, I think Ragavan will probably cover that next time too. But when you go into My Rotary, the things that we put into DacDB go to My Rotary. So that's the reason that I had that one open. The last resource I'm going to show you before I dive into DacDB is our district website. And I heard a couple of people say to me on a couple of other conference calls this last week that I didn't even know our district had a website. So the reason I'm bringing this back up is because there's all this important information here. Our countdown to district conferences coming up and our information about the district conferences here. I'm going to put a little plug about the silent auction. So get your club stuff in. We need your club stuff so we can raise money for our silent auction at district conference. Then over here at resources, there are a lot of the resources we're talking about here or we're referencing or what Ragavan referenced last time. All of these resources can also be found from this jumping point. And right here at the bottom, training, seminar, recordings, and presentations. If you were to click on that, and you will see that all this stuff that we're doing now, the stuff we collect, there's a way for you to go back and review this stuff. So while we're covering a ton of information, if you need to go back and review it, you can always find a way to go back and review and look over some things. The 2021 pets and pre-pets had some nice targeted trainings. We're going to cover that again. So even though it's nice to go back and look at that, I'll show you a few things that there are always updates. And so we'll also have these recordings somewhere here on these resource pages so you can go grab them when you want to. So those are fun. The other thing in DacDB I want to draw your attention back to is support and training. Over here, don't forget support and training. All of the stuff that you'd ever want to know about DacDB is here. The quick start guide that I started you with right here, DacDB training. Can everybody see my screen okay, right? Okay, great. I see heads nodding. DacDB training. You have Tuesday trainings, officer training. When you click on the officer training, all of these over key topics are all of the videos. So that's just a reminder that while we're going over this stuff, don't feel like you're going to have to memorize it. I promise not to give tests on anything, but it's a nice thing to know that you don't have to memorize it all now. You just have to be comfortable or be aware of it and know where you can get the information needed when you need it. All right, so today my question for you, I have another question, is on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being I have no idea what PMail is, and 5 being I'm an expert on PMail, where are you? Where are you? On scale 1 to 5, where are you with PMail? I got
About
a
a
3.
2. About a 2.
Okay. I see a 3.5 and a 2, a 4. Okay. So we've got all over the place, and that's pretty good. So when you come, and this is another thing I'm going to show you in case you didn't get a chance to play with the settings. If you come to your club, you come to DacDB, you go to the My Club tab, and the My Club tab is the same as the District tab. It's just that the District will take you to other things, district-related items, which you certainly can go to or look up committees, look up other clubs, look up members in the district. But I'm focusing right now on my club. And notice that I don't have the PMail button right here. And so if you go into my club and you're missing a button you think you need to have right here, go to this little gear in the top right-hand corner and go grab the items that you think need to be there. So PMail, and you drag it and drop it. Oh, I want it closer to the top because I'm probably going to PMail people a lot. And then notice here, there are some other things. This one's for you, Rudy. This P-text button, you know, there may be other things you want.
Oh, you turned that on for me?
It's not turned on. It's still at a, it is at a basic level.
Okay.
So there's a subscription for that, but there's a basic level, and I'm showing you so that you can go tap into it and see what you think.
Okay.
But PMail is what we're going to focus on here for everyone else. And maybe you have, let's see, what else is kind of important here? Area is kind of important because that's where you know where your fellow area clubs and who your assistant governor is. So then when you move your buttons where you want them, or if you have buttons that you're not going to use, move those out of the way, go ahead and hit set my configuration. And there, if you feel like you're missing a button, you can go get your button. I'm going to click on into PMail. And I'm going to check my time to make sure that I'm doing all right. And the first thing you want to do is you want to know probably who you're going to email, and you're going to want to know your topic. So when you type, I always leave, when I go to subject, I always leave this rotary here. And the reason I do that is so that when Rotarians see that subject line, they immediately know it's a rotary message sent out. And of course, most Rotarians really want to keep up to date that we have a really good read rate in our club and in our district. And so if we make sure to right off the bat say it's a rotary message, that I have found that our Rotarians are going to open it soon. And so notice I already have some things that I've already emailed people about. So here we had our major fundraiser. So let's say I'm going to email my club about this major fundraiser and planning for 2023. And I'm a person who likes to put, I don't like to put the whole, fill up the whole line, but I like to put the direct topic. I don't like to put the word Rotary and then say help, because that doesn't give anybody an idea of what I'm asking them for. I could be asking them to volunteer. I could be asking them for money. I could be asking them to come out to my house and help me in the yard. I want to be as specific as possible, but I also want a Rotarian to be able to see the subject line and know exactly what that message is going to be about. Then when you go to the to button, I'm going to show you there's two ways to do this to button. But when you look over here to select a group, I'm going to ask you to be careful about that. You think that this says, wow, I could just select a group, and that sounds great. The problem with selecting a group is that these groups are static groups that were created by someone else for some reason. And they may or may not go back to look and see who is in these groups. And so I notice that if you were to say, I think I want to email all clubs, this is a great idea, or all district members, this is a great idea. Notice that you will have terminated members in here. And that's because that is a snapshot in time group. So if you're going to make a group of, say, your board members or something, remember that's a snapshot in time. And if you have a board member who terminates, this group right here will not change. So I recommend if you use the groups, use them carefully, and remember that you could accidentally be emailing terminated members. And if you've ever done that, you'll get an email right back with quite possibly an angry person who says they're not in anymore, or the terminated member. That email could be going to a family whose loved one has passed away. So I would not use groups as though it's a go-to thing. If you're going to use a group, create your group for 1 year and then move along. But to email everyone in your club, this is the good way to do it. Go right over here to the to button. And yours is going to look different because I'm signed in as myself as the district secretary. But when you click on this club, your club is going to show up. So your club is going to be the one. And when you check it, all of your club members' names are going to be right here. Now, I like to go through and I delete a couple of people because I know that this person is not reading her emails and her family is getting them and she's an honorary member. So I'm going to remove her. And then another person that I know that I'm going to remove is the principal of one of the high schools here. That she's an honorary member, but she doesn't really always want to know all of these details about our fundraisers. Sometimes she does, so I'll leave her in. But for this particular event, I'm not gonna put her in there. So you can just pull out a couple of people. So when you click update names, all of these names come in the to field. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want them to all see what I'm emailing each other. So don't worry about it. When you actually go to hit send on this email, everyone will go into the blind carbon copy. Even though it doesn't look like it here, that is where they go. Everyone is going to go into the blind carbon copy. Now, so that I don't accidentally send my whole club an email today on accident, I'm just going to send one to myself. Plug myself in, update the name. So there we go. And then when you get down to this point, you can begin writing your email. So another thing that I want to let you know about this part is that this isn't really an email like your email. It's not like your email, and it's not like Microsoft Word. This is more of a hypertext markup language thing, and what this does is it puts everything into an HTML format. And if you look at your source, you can see all this code is here. So what this means is when you copy and paste something from Microsoft Word over here, you're going to find that all of the text looks different, or it may not look the way you had hoped it would look. And to get around that, to make everything look like it's the same font, I mean, if you're fine, you know, but notice if you copy and paste from Word document, things could like get out of place or look different. And so a way to get around that is when you're copying it. So I'm going to copy something, and then I'm going to paste it. The paste is a Control Shift, because they'll even tell you that when you try to paste it. There it is. So when these are the paste buttons right here. When you try to paste something, it tells you to press Control Shift V. And what that does is that removes the formatting. So you don't have weird, like different size text, different fonts there. So that's kind of a trick to, you can go straight to paste something here, but what it tells you what to paste. That's pasting something right from your clipboard. This button next to it with a little pencil and a W means you're pasting something that you've typed up in Word. The beauty of using Word is that it does your spell check and your grammar check for you. So it is kind of nice to type it out in Word and then copy it and paste over here. So then the other cool things about PMail is that you can set this up. Somebody's going to go on vacation. You want to get this email out, a weekly message, or maybe you put out a weekly message or a monthly message. You can schedule this for a different time and have it ready to go. You can select a template. I know that in our club, we have a public image person who sends our bulletins out, and that person they do select a template. And you can see we've got a template. Somebody made a template in 2016. You can use a standard template over here when you can manage templates. I just like to send an email. I don't use templates too much because I want my club members to see me type a message to them. And so I don't generally use a template for that. What you can also see is what you have in draft. So maybe, whoops, I'm gonna open this in another window. Maybe I won't. When you go back to here, you can see, oh, here it is. It saved it to draft. So this used to not be here. This is a relatively new feature that I'm extremely happy to see actually working. And I have gone through and typed up a message that I'm going to send later on. Here's my message that I'm going to send later on, asking for those silent auction donations again. But this is a message I was just working on, and I can go back and revisit it later. I don't have to send it now. You know, the phone rings and I have to step away from my computer. I can walk away. When you do finally go in and you decide to send your message, you're just going to hit send, and it's not going to give you a warning or anything. It's not going to say, are you sure you really want to send? It's just going to send. So make sure it's ready to go. One thing that I like to do is write out my email, put only me in it, and then I like to send it. There it is. It just went. No warning, you're about to send it to tons of people or anything. Then I go back to my email and I wait. So notice here, it's only went to one. Here it is. It's waiting here. There it is. It's getting ready to send. Now, the reason it sits here pending for a while is because, like I said, it's not a regular email. This is a database process that occurs. And so all of these database processes are all over. Everyone who uses DacDB, all of these processes go at a certain time. The other great thing about sending PMails from this application rather than your own email is that these emails get sent out about a second apart. They don't get sent. You don't send a PMail to, say, the whole district or to 65 people. They don't go out all at once. They get sent at about a second apart. The important thing about that kind of application is that you won't get flagged as a spammer. if you go into your email, your regular email, and you try to email 200 people, you may find that some of the email providers are tagging you as a spammer and blacklisting you. So using the PMail as your communication tool makes sure that there's a safe way for you to send emails to a lot of people. And so it sits here pending for a little while, not too long, but it does eventually go out. And then once it's gone out, you can always track it after that. Once it's gone out, you track it. And so this is the beauty about tracking, is that here's the message I just sent to presidents asking for donations. I can click on that. And let's say it's the one that I just sent, this one that I just sent to myself. I'll pick one that I sent to just myself, because you'll see that I do that many times. So here's one. Here's one that I sent just to myself. So I sent it to myself. I went to my email, I looked at it, I clicked the links, I thought it looked good. Then I went to send new to all. And then I selected my club. Why do you think I did that? Why do you think I sent the message?
As a last review process.
Exactly, Catherine. I sent it just to myself. I checked my email. I was happy with the way it looked, or maybe I made an edit, but then I come back to tracking. I find that email I just sent to myself, and now I go and I click. And then I send it to my whole club. And then I, of course, put the subject in. The Oktoberfest subject line. And then I send it. But that way, you're right. That way I had a way to look over it and make sure it was what I wanted. Because this one, I put colors, I put links, and I wanted to make sure that link worked. And so that's why I did it that way. So that's a great way, because when you go to hit send, there is no way to unsend. So a lot of, I'm going to completely back out of it so I don't send that. A lot of mass email has, when you hit send, there's another button that says you're about to send this to 245 people. Are you absolutely sure you want to do that? And you get a moment to think about what you've done. let me see the preview again. This PMail, the way you can get your moment to think about it and to look at what you're sending is to send it to yourself first, look at it, edit it if you like, come back to tracking. You can even see you delivered to one. So I know that was me. I delivered it to one. And then notice that I was happy with it. And then I sent it to 57 people right after that. And let's say I needed to send out another reminder and it was mostly going to be the same. I could reuse that message again and send it again. So those are the tips and tricks that I've learned about PMail. Another thing that that was said earlier was about finding a team, finding your team. You don't necessarily have to be the person who sends all the PMails. If like we have a person in our club that sends the weekly emails, and then we have another person who sends announcement emails, and then the president of our club sends some personalized emails, but not a lot. So she delegates most of the PMail out to a couple of other people in our club. And that's a really great way to think about it. You don't, as the president coming up, you don't have to be the person that sends all the PMail to your club all the time. You can delegate this out, and you can send as much of this PMail out as you're comfortable in doing. And if you're just going to send out a monthly message to your club, giving them an update, or if you're just going to send out to your board members, if you're going to send information to your board members about an upcoming board meeting, and that's fine. You don't have to be the primary peeler, and I would recommend you not be the primary person that sends all the PMail in your club out to everyone in your club all the time. Go ahead and get that team Ashley said it earlier, this is a great time to start looking at your team and building your team and making sure some of these duties are set aside. So while you may not be PMailing people, it certainly is useful to understand how the process works. What questions do you have?
None.
All right, so I have one more tip and trick right here. Notice right here where it says from. And it's my name is right there. And I just send like that. You can always change it to something else. I don't recommend doing it. I don't recommend doing it this way, because what's going to happen, let's say, you know, for as example, we have a guy in our club and he does not have PMail access to do the club, but he runs a bunch of our social events. So he always asks that I or Diane Gordon, who's in our club, send the PMails for him, and we're glad to do it. And so if you just change this right here, the name, that doesn't actually change who it's from. That will send, I will go ahead and write it, I'll send the PMail, but when people get it, it will be from Camille Peter with the name of Jack Hilders. And that can cause some problems. Does anybody know what kind of problem that could cause? The problem, if you've ever had anyone in your club who has an AOL email account, and for a reason they don't know why, their email, DacDB email has been flagged as blacklisted for them. And that's because this looks like spoofing. It looks like somebody sending an email with the wrong name on it. And so AOL will flag that, and that will get marked as a bad email address in our system. And so then you have a member. So the way to get around this, so for Jack wanting me to email out about Oktoberfest, the best way to do this, if you're going to email for someone else, which could happen, the best way to do it is to go ahead and click from. Type their name. And there he is. And then write your email and send it. Because when it gets sent, it looks like it's coming from Jack Hilders and his name is on it. So that will not flag anybody, any email program, that there's any spoofing going on. So that's the best way. The only other reason you may not want to, you may want to change it is like, notice that my name comes up, Peter Camille. If I were to change it to Camille Peter and just send it, that's still going to connect that's still going to appear that the right person is sending that email. So that's a little tip and trick. If you ever think you're going to send email on behalf of someone else, don't just change the name. Go ahead and select their record and use their record to do that. Jack puts on so many events in the year. That's why I'm using him as an example here.
Now, Camille, I have a question.
Yeah.
You send out a PMail. Can people respond, and can you get the response?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the people are going to respond to you. And because when it comes out into their email inbox, it's going to say it came from DacDB, but it's going to have your return address and your name on it. So they'll know it came from you. And when they hit respond or reply, it's going to go directly back to you. It won't go to DacDB, and all of the other people that you sent it to will not get that response either.
So by saying it goes back to me, it goes back to my own email
Your
address?
own email, yes.
Ah, okay.
Your own personal email, right?
Wow.
That's the importance of using an actual, your actual name or another member. Because like for this one, it was Oktoberfest. I put Jack's name in here. See, I took it out, so it's gonna give me grief. But I put Jack's name in here, and when I sent this message out, it looked like it came from Jack. And when people responded and said, "Oops, I forgot to pay, I'm coming," they hit reply, it went right back to Jack.
Okay, well, that's great.
Yeah, this is nice. This to field, you'll get a message confirmation that says it was sent. There it is. See, pending is now 0. And then I have this little message that I just sent to myself. In my email, I'll get a confirmation that it was sent. And then I will get a second email that looks the way it's really supposed to look. So you'll get 2 emails. The confirmation will tell you, list all the people that you sent it to.
That's pretty amazing.
What did I miss? What else? All right, so your homework, your challenge, should you accept it? Oh, I see Catherine. Catherine, did you have something?
Got to unmute, Kat. You're still muted, Catherine. There you are.
How do you deal with people who don't use PMail?
Well, what do you mean by that, Catherine? Like people who like say you have a member of your club and they just email it from their own email rather than.
No, a couple of club members have decided that they get too much email and they have opted out of PMail.
That's a great question. So we usually can tell when we go to tracking. We can see like if there were fails, and then we can try to find out why that failed. So this fail, I would go dive into that a little bit and see it failed to Charlie. And I can probably tell you why, because someone in our club recently sent an email and they typed in a different name. He has AOL. And so that one, it's going to show on his record that he opted out, or that it was, it was marked as spam. His AOL account marked it as spam. So I'm gonna have to go back and fix. The only way I can fix this is to put in a ticket with the DacDB and ask them and beg them to remove that, because there's no other way. AOL marked it as spam. Charlie did not do that. But the other one, you notice that you can see it may say right here, not delivering because user opted out, or when you go back to find a member, here's Paul. If you go back to find a member and you go to edit, and then you go to their contact, you can see where they've opted out. They may have opted out. So the question would be, can you have a conversation with them and ask them how else they would like to receive the club information, because they're missing a lot of club information, and they're missing district information. So there's one is have a conversation and ask them, what about PMail, or what is too much? Why do they feel like they're getting too much? The other thing is your club sending too much email? That's another question. Our club members are used to our once a week. And then being that we have a few district leaders in our club, they're also getting another email from us about twice a month or so from the district. So our club members have not indicated that that's too much, but so those are 2 questions. Is there too much email coming from somebody, or is there, I think that's a conversation with them, asking them what's too much and what can be done and how would they like to get the information.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Camille.
All right. Well, I don't see anything else. So your challenge is going to be to send a PMail. And if you don't have a reason to send a PMail, at least send it to me before next time. Oh, there we go.
Thanks, Camille.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's take 5 and come back with Chuck.
Hey, Camille, did you see my note to my text?
The order of business of a Rotary meeting. Now, every one of you has been to meetings, and every one of you knows how your club runs its meeting. not a problem. But there are certain parts and pieces that should be addressed in every template for a meeting. But the first thing I want to say, Ragavan, go ahead and put the slide up. First thing I want to say is, for every meeting, there should be an agenda. I mean, I have been at club meetings where the presidents come in and said, what are we doing today? And that's really not the best way to start a meeting. So Rotary has very certain basic things that they would like to see in a meeting, and then you can pick and choose whatever you want. And some of the clubs have a template already made, and that's fine too. But we're just going to go through some of the standard things that happen. And the first thing, of course, is the opening. Some clubs open with a prayer, a thought for the day, an inspirational moment, or a moment of silence. And this is in no particular order. Whatever your club tradition is, whether it's a prayer or a moment of silence, that's fine. Just go with that. I would caution that Rotary is an international organization, and they do not have a religious preference. So many times a club will invoke either the name of Christ or Muhammad in a prayer. That may offend some members that aren't of that particular religion. Keep that in mind when you're doing that. Some clubs use the Pledge of Allegiance. That's an American thing. Other clubs don't do that. Some clubs have a song. It used to be in the old Rotary that there were songs and there were song books, and they would say, go to page 3, and there would be a familiar tune with words that related to Rotary. A lot of clubs don't sing now. Some still have pianists or people that play instruments. I remember recently visiting a club where the music was accompanied with a guitar. But those are just the different openings. As the president, you're responsible for opening and running the meeting and putting the agenda together. Now, if you can't make a meeting, please let someone know, because I have been to Rotary clubs where the president was delayed in traffic, whatever, and everybody's looking around like, well, what do we do? And as a visitor, I didn't quite think it was my place to get up and start to run a meeting. But if you can't make a meeting, make sure somebody is there. Usually it's the president-elect or an officer, but any Rotarian can run a meeting. But don't pick the brand newest Rotarian, because they might not know what to do. Now, most clubs have a meal. Some don't. Now, the opening and the meal, that can be switched. Think about this. If you have a buffet, okay, everybody comes in, gets the buffet, eats, and then the meeting starts. If you have a plated meal or some other difference, you'd have an opening and then the meal. You can move those parts around. There's no way of doing this. And of course, some evening clubs and cocktail clubs don't have a meal. And all you have to do is get the people away from the bar. But then the meeting, after the meal or the meeting or the opening, then you go into the meeting. And this is where the president takes the time to really talk about birthdays, introduce guests, not the speaker, but the other guests. Somebody's brought someone in, somebody's brought their spouse, their child. Make sure that you recognize the guests, and the guests are, have them stand up, give them a round of applause, whatever your club does, but don't make people that are there for the first time just sit there and look like, what are they doing here? And you may have an update on your projects. You may have old business or new business in the form of announcements. Now, remember that Rotary, the business, as I told on the last meeting, the business of the club is done by the board of directors, not the whole membership, although I understand we have votes and we make whole memberships voting. Think about this, though. If you use Robert's Rules of Order and you make the club as the governing body of your club, then you need a majority, a quorum, every time they take a vote that is binding. So think about that, because really what you're doing is you're bringing the idea for the meeting is to have fun, inform, and learn. And so when you have old business and new business, that would be announcements, your membership chair, your projects chair, your committee chair, they may have something they want to say. And do now, then you have a program. Now, the important part of this is the care and feeding of your speaker or speakers, or however that is, because they are the most important person or persons at the meeting that week. And you want, first of all, you want to make sure that the president or the secretary, somebody that invited them, is there early in case they come in. I walked into a meeting one time and there was one person sitting in the room, and I introduced myself and I said, I'm Chuck Arnason from Blackstone. And they said, well, I'm with the Salvation Army or whatever it was. So it was just the speaker and I felt awkward about that. So make sure that when you invite speakers and things, that somebody is there to take care of them. I have found that it's good to ask the speaker, if it is a meal involved, if they have any dietary preferences. Don't put fried chicken in front of a vegan. It just doesn't quite work. But then make sure that the speaker's comfortable. If you have cocktails before, or you have social before, or you have a buffet or a meal before anything starts, make sure that speaker's taken care of. He knows where he or she would sit, and make them feel welcome and a part of the group. And that's very important. And then after that, then normally the chair would have closing remarks. Now, a lot of clubs do a raffle, a 50-50. Then so where does that come in? This is a good place to do that, because then you're announcing who wins the money if you have a Queen's pot, whatever the club does. But I'll tell you, people that buy a ticket and then you forget to have the raffle, they will shout you down from the podium for not doing that. Just that's a voice of experience. So make sure that someplace in your whole process, there is a raffle. If you have a 50-50 and you honor that. Now, the four-way test. The four-way test, some clubs do it at the beginning. Some clubs close the meeting with the four-way test. That's a preference, but I will say that if I go to a meeting and they don't do the four-way test, I do mention it to the president or something, because it is our motto, and I feel it should be done at every meeting. You may have a different opinion. If your club doesn't do it, then maybe it's time to introduce it. Also, whoever does it, just remember that it is the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Don't get up to the meeting and say, Chuck's going to do the four-way test, and I go, is it the truth? A visitor isn't going to understand what's going on here. What do you mean? Is it the truth? Is this the Inquisition? So, the preface is very important. And I think we need to, whoever does it, just make sure that it does that. Some clubs do first, second, third, fourth. Other clubs go right through it. That's your preference, however they want to do it. So those are sort of the general things that we lay out. I can't stress this as important. The time, make sure you start on time and you finish on time. If you're a breakfast or lunch club and you got people there ready to go to work and your meeting goes over, they will vote by their feet and leave, because they got to be to work or they got to get back in traffic or whatever. So be very cognizant. If you say the meeting starts at 7 o'clock, start it at 7 o'clock. If it starts at 12 o'clock, start at 12 o'clock. Make sure that whatever you do, you have everyone out of there at the time that they expect to be out of there, because they're planning their day based on that meeting. And if you run over and you all do just chit chat and different things like that during the meeting, they may not come back because they have other things to do. As I said, again, the agenda is very important. The atmosphere is very important. We've had situations, I haven't witnessed it, but I've been told, where a speaker's walked in and everybody's talking and everybody or eating or whatever, and the speaker didn't know what to do. And a friend of mine went to speak at a club, and he walked in and he didn't know what to do, and he was standing there and everybody was chatting and standing around, and he sort of felt awkward. Nobody approached him. So that goes back to that whoever's responsible for that speaker has to make sure that the caring and feeding of that speaker is prominent in everything you do. Try to promote your speakers in advance. This goes back to Ashley's public image stuff. You have speakers that are going to talk about changes in zoning in your area. Get that in the paper or get that online so that people who may be interested in that topic that aren't Rotarians would maybe come to that meeting, and that would be a good way to introduce them to Rotary and to what we do. Always keep everything above board. Don't start to discuss a topic in a meeting that really belongs to the board. And if the members want to involve in that, Rotary has a thing called the club assembly. The bylaws say that we do it 4 or 5 times a year, and that's the place to do business and make business decisions, is at that club assembly. The easiest way to do that is every year there are 4 months that have a 5th, whatever day it is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the way the calendar runs. So if you have 4 meetings or 2 meetings or whatever, but you have a month that has a 5th, whatever, say Monday, then that would be the club assembly. And that's where the club, and you don't invite guests, but the club and the leadership sit down and they talk about those thorny issues and sort of clear them out. There's a lot more to running a club, but the key is to have a template, follow the template, and be comfortable as the president when you're leading the club. You know, don't. I always think it's funny when the president or whoever's leading the meeting gets up and says, "What's next?" So you should know that, and the club should know that. And that's basically what I have. Are there any questions?
I have a comment to make. This is John White from the Rotary Club of Richmond. And directly after the opening, we have a meet and greet where all the members get up, circulate, shake hands with themselves and with the guests. And I love that. I think that's a very, very sociable way of people getting to know each other and to get to know their guests. And I would recommend every club does the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
How many members are in your club?
We have about 30 to 40 people per meeting for lunchtime meeting at the Willow Oaks Rotary Club, Willow Oaks Country Club. So there are a total of about 70 members altogether. So we average about 50%. But it's about five or 6 minutes when people just circulate, get up, shake hands, and say hello, greet the guests.
I love that idea.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, that'd be a good fit for your club, Jeff, as big as you guys are.
We kind of do that before the meeting bell rings, but it's not a formal part of our agenda, and it might be added to it. I like that a lot.
Yeah, good. Yeah, well, I like it too. And I'm going to make sure that I do that in the club. It's something I will inherit, and we'll continue to do that.
Very good.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it back to.
Thank you.
Just one of the comments, Chuck, before you leave. One of the you might have covered this in your last session, but you're coming in as a new president, and Chuck has already talked about the template. If you're coming in as a new president and you're looking for the template, where should you find it?
I took a picture of it.
It should be in the bylaws.
Should be in your bylaws.
Yeah.
Should be in your bylaws. If it is not in your bylaws, you might want to take and I know I'm still talking about what Chuck talked about last week, but this is important. Everything that happens in your club, all the basic things that happen in your club should be in your bylaws. one of the first things you need to do if you have not done it already is to go back and check your bylaws. You know, I remember a time when I checked some of the club's bylaws, they were so outdated that they would make Paul Harris blush. So you might want to change them because that template should be in your bylaws. What John was referring to, the meet and greet, is in the bylaws. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rudy?
Okay. I think I'm off mute. Good. Yeah, I just want to cover a couple of things. Don't forget district conference is coming up. It's a great opportunity for you folks to get together as a group. I'm a big believer that the more time you can spend together as presidents-elect, the better your year is going to be, because you will have more opportunities to bounce ideas off of others who are going through the same thing at the same time as you. As I said in my email reminder, my district governor class has been meeting monthly, at least monthly, since April of 21. Now we have a longer window, but it doesn't mean that your clubs can't start developing a longer window of leadership. We're still lacking 20 clubs who don't have presidents-elect. Right? If all of our clubs had presidents-elect and presidents nominee, I will tell you that your job as club president will be so much easier, and your ability to impact your communities will be so much greater if you can all get on a continuum of leadership, such as Kenny and Joy and I have done, where we're all focusing on the same topics. We may have different styles, and that's exactly what you need, is a different style, but we're all focusing on the same topics so that we can start to get some traction moving forward. The other thing that I'd really recommend you consider is visiting other clubs. I cannot stress enough how important, Ashley pointed it out, how important it is to go see Rotary outside of your club. It is eye-opening when you go around and you visit other clubs to see how they do Rotary. And it's a great way to get new ideas. So, like John was sharing with us about the meet and greet at the Rotary Club of Richmond, that's a huge benefit, especially in a club that's larger or a club that doesn't have 100% attendance, because you're going to have new members who don't know who's in the club. Especially as we're continuing to come out of this COVID thing, more and more folks need to reconnect. So by visiting another club, you can see what they're doing, and you can choose whether or not to add that to yours as well. Jim, coming up, we have foundation, DEI, and empowering women. Is that correct? Those are our next 3 topics, not in that order necessarily. Okay. I would encourage you to, the empowering women session is going to be phenomenal, and the DEI session is going to be phenomenal. The speaker for DEI is just, she's got such an incredible backstory that it's a pleasure listening to Dawn speak whenever I have the opportunity. The last thing I'll do before I throw the calendar up is remind you that you should be building your team now. You should already know who you are thinking about to follow you as president nominee. And if you can get them to pets, it will be a big bonus for you, because they will be able to have the same vocabulary that you have coming out of pets. We have seats assigned at pets right now where we can bring 10 to 15 people from our district to pets for what we're calling the emerging leaders. And the emerging leaders will be those people who are either identified as president's nominee or who you see in your club that have an opportunity to grow in leadership. And it'll start to expose them to those tools that are available so that they're not dropped into something and feel like they're lost in the woods. So with that, let me quickly throw the calendar up. And you should see the calendar there. So coming up, we have the Prelude, the next Prelude to Pets is October the 8th in a couple of weeks. There's a Rotary Leadership Institute coming up on October the 11th. Highly encourage you to have your club members participate in that. That'll be on the 11th and the 12th. It's a split session. Then back to Prelude. In between the Rotary Leadership and Prelude is the district conference. And then you can see, rounding out the calendar as we head into district pre-pets, team training, and district training assembly. So subject to your questions, that's all I have, folks. No questions? Jim, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for spending your Saturday morning with us. And I just hope we covered something this morning that will be a benefit to you. Now, there are some things that some of you, some of the things, if you've been in Rotary for a while, it's quite a possibility that there's some of these things that you're going to know. The other thing about it, though, there are some things that you're going to find out that will help you during your presidency. I've been in Rotary for quite a while and in leadership for quite a while. There are some things I found out this morning myself. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next session. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thanks.
So long, everyone.
Good job. Great.
Thanks, folks.